Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of CNB Bazaar Buzz. You're on the NDTV network. I am Cyrus Dabar and here's what we have in store for you on the show today. Creta versus Creta, pre-facelift versus the new facelift version. The Yamaha R15 ridden on the road. And the X1 Racing League. We tell you what it's all about. Let's start with the Hyundai Creta. Now we've brought you an in-depth review of the facelift version, but ever wondered what's actually new when you compare to the old one? Well, here's a side-by-side comparison for you.
Such a popular car, it's a bestseller, more than 10,000 units being sold every month. And when the facelift came out, we told you all about it. There was a lot of buzz, but the big question you've all had, just really how different is the new car compared to the old one? It's the Hyundai Creta, it is the new model, and we've got the 5 cool changes for you now. So first up, the most obvious change, it's the headlamp and the front grille. Now, this was always a good looking car and you can see that this grille really works, but for the first time I personally think the cascade grille also works, because what it does is it makes the car look much bigger up front, makes it look a little more grown up, more mature, and it's well executed too. It's not cheesy, it's not overdone. The headlamp also nicely done in terms of the layering. Second very obvious thing, you've got many angular lines here. Things have gotten softened on this bumper. It's also extruded and looks bigger. And then you've got the fog lamp housing with the daytime running light. Finally, a DRL on the Creta.
The DRLs are on mid and up variants. The Creta also now gets an H-band activity key. That's only at the top end though. It's a variable band that allows you to have an active lifestyle without worrying about carrying the key.
It's the same layout on the cabin, but things have been spruced up a little bit and you've got some new features. So the touchscreen on the top end is the same, but the interface is much better. It's improved. Of course, you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also get this SD card slot now, which is new. And wireless phone charging down here is completely new. It's a nice little feature to have. Will start to become more and more common on many cars going forward. And of course, Hyundai's Swatch can is coming with every new car now. It's a good idea to have a little dustbin. It rattles around though, it needs to fit in a little bit better. The top end also gets power adjustment for the driver's seat, nice to have. And a sunroof, also nice to have. Now Hyundai very innocuously said that it's tweaked a few things when it comes to the drivetrain and the suspension. I think that should have been the big headline, because I've saved the best for last. The 5th big cool change, excellent ride quality. The suspension has certainly been improved and the car feels great to drive, because there's also a little bit of enhancement in terms of its fuel efficiency and also the power delivery on the engine, both on the petrol and diesel.
That Creta is no doubt going to be a very popular car with the SUV buyers in India. But now on to something a little sportier on 2 wheels. Now we've ridden the R15 from Yamaha, the new R15 on the track earlier. Now it's time for an on-road review. Here's what we think.
Yamaha launched the R15 version 3 a few months ago and we first rode it at the Madras Motor Race Track in Chennai. Now we ride it out in the real world, where most owners will be riding it, in the city and with a fair bit of highway thrown in as well.
Leaner, meaner, faster and definitely sexier. The Yamaha R15 version 3 is better than its predecessor on all fronts. Now Preetham rode the motorcycle at the Chennai race track and we got an opportunity to test this bike on regular roads. When Preetham rode the motorcycle, he was quite impressed by it and we kind of agree with him. Find out how.
It certainly looks the part of an entry-level baby sports bike. Taking cues from its elder siblings, the R1 and the R6, the bike looks sharp and warrants a second look when moving on the road. The good thing is that there is a sense of balance. The design is not overwhelming or busy, but at the same time it is not simple either. So much so that the bike is lost in a sea of two-wheelers on the road. But there is a grouse here. The fit and finish on the bike could have been better. It is slightly surprising because Yamaha models are known to have immaculate fit and finish. To begin with, the bike gets twin LED headlamps, an LED tail lamp, a fully digital and comprehensive instrumentation console, and an assist and slipper clutch.
The new R15 makes more power and torque than the previous model, which translates into a solid mid-range. This means that overtaking on city roads is an absolute breeze. Also, like its predecessor, this bike is an agile handler. You tip it into the corner and accelerate hard and you'll have a wide smile on your face. 150cc performance bikes do not get better than this.
The R15 gets a 155cc single-cylinder liquid-cooled engine, which makes 19 brake horsepower at 10,000 RPM and 15.1 Nm of peak torque. The R15 gets a 155cc single-cylinder liquid-cooled engine, which makes 19 brake horsepower and 15 Nm of peak torque. Then there is the rather slick 6-speed transmission as well. But the biggest update that the engine gets is the variable valve actuation or VVA. Its primary job is to get the engine to pump out more torque and power at both ends of the rev range. While the stopping power was adequate, we wish that the brakes offered a little more bite. Even though the braking is progressive, a touch more sharpness would have been welcome. And we really wish Yamaha offered ABS on the new Gen R15, even if as an option. The ride quality of the R15 version 3 is quite nice. The suspension isn't as stiff as we thought it would be, and it absorbs most bumps and broken tarmac better than what we expected. The riding posture though is even more committed, with the seat height being increased by 15mm and the clip on the handlebars being lowered further than what it was before. Although it offers a sporty riding position, a long daily commute, especially in the summer months, could drain you out. The third generation of the Yamaha R15 is the embodiment of what the R15 has always stood for. Sheer, unbridled fun and affordable at that, with a price tag of 1,26,000 rupees. Except for the omission of the ABS, there is little to find fault with the new R15. Except for the omission of ABS, there is little to find fault with the new R15. If you like your corners fast and would like to cut your teeth on a smaller displacement bike before you move on to bigger bikes, the new Yamaha R15 is the ideal bike you can buy.
We find ourselves early in the morning at a racetrack with two racing drivers that don't really need any introduction on the show. Armann, Ebrahim, Aditya, Patel, welcome. And you're here for a very special reason, because you've decided to start something called the Extreme One Racing League, the first of its kind in India. It's a national racing league, very similar to the, well, I'm not going to call it very similar to the IPL format, but well, it's something like that. Come on, quickly tell us, what is it all about, and when do we actually see all these lovely races on the road?
So basically the Extreme 1 Racing League is something the two of us, one day we got together, we kind of put pen to paper. After obviously years of talking about doing something like this, we decided, okay, let's put pen to paper. We wrote down the pros and cons of doing it, then we discussed different formats, said this will work, this won't work, bounced ideas off each other, and finally we came up with something unique, something interesting. And then obviously from there we had to meet a few people, float the idea by them. We decided we don't want to involve the racing world so much in the initial stages because it's the same ideas that everybody's got. Let's go outside, let's speak to people who have different ideas and then run it by them. And then we got really good feedback. We met people who would be potential investors at the time and they came on board eventually. So yeah, and then we ended up with what's called the Extreme 1 Racing League that we propose to run in the first quarter next year.
Now, you were telling me about a very cool anecdote about how you came up with the name. I think our viewers deserve to know the backstory behind the name.
I mean, there's no point calling it Extreme 2 or Extreme 3 because someone's going to look at us asking when you're going to reach 1. So we always got to start at the top and then work our way downwards, you know. So we want to start with the bang. I mean, you know, bring in the best, and then from there formulate it downwards and go to the development level, and then, you know, slowly we'll have a whole structure. But yeah, like Aditya was saying, we've formulated a whole program. We've got a very good team. We formed a really good team. You know, people from outside the sport. You know, so everything outside the box. Again, we've seen for generations everything has been done in a certain way, and it's time to change that. You know, it's time to revolutionize motorsport in India, and, you know, get motorsport to suit the Indian market, and that's what Extreme 1 Racing League is going to do, I guess.
Right. Now, this isn't going to be only restricted to tracks, because we've got 3 in the country, we've got more coming up now, and we're on a track now, but this isn't going to be restricted to tracks. What do you exactly have in mind?
So we thought, you know, in India it's very hard to get, for some reason, the people to come to racetracks. We do have races at the Buddh International Circuit and MMRT, but they've never been able to get enough crowd. Of course, one reason being the race format, etc., advertising, marketing of it. 2, they're both really far away. So for starters, we said let's bring it to the people, and city races, street races are really popular. Formula E becoming really popular now, the Monte Carlo GP, Singapore GP, all these races have been popular all over the world for people to watch on TV. So we said, let's do this, it's possible. We have decent roads in our country, we can showcase that to the world, which is also important. Which is also how we, when we approached the government and the municipalities in different cities, we said, you know, this is how people are going to look at your city after this is done, which really helped in driving the idea into their head.
Right now, most people will say it's impossible to drive a fast car on Indian roads. Where are you going to find them? What roads, what sort of roads have you selected? Is it going to be sort of going past famous monuments, and more importantly, what cities have you selected so far?
We've rounded out a couple of options where we've been going and looking at various venues, and yeah, we've got 6 options with us, and, you know, we've actually progressed onwards where we've made a few we've made a few layouts. Some work, some didn't work, you know, because of whatever reasons, whether it's permissions, whether it was you know, blocking the traffic, or whether it was actually just dimensions of it. But some did work, and, you know, we've actually progressed in a way where we sent the drawings to the FIA. We're working with the federation, and, you know, we've sent it to the FIA to do the simulations and get the permissions. So I think after that we'll be able to give you a little more detailed insight into where these locations are, and where the circuits are going to be located and what they're all about.
Right, now you're talking about cities. Are you also going to involve the actual current tracks in the calendar?
Yes, that's the plan. So we want to mix it up a little bit. So obviously we do maybe most 3/4 of the championship will be on streets, and then the rest of it, quarter of it will be on circuits.
Now that brings me to the obvious next question: the format of racing. Is it going to be a street car, super saloon type sort of championship? Is it going to be like a purpose-built race car? Is it going to be karts? What is it all about?
Customized race cars,
yeah,
which
something unique. So
it'll be an X1 car.
Exactly, it's going to be the X1 car.
It's called the X1 car.
That's ideally what we'd like to call it, but we want to customize it, and we are in talks with different manufacturers to get our car off the ground, and engines, we've met different engine suppliers as well. Again, it has to be different, has to be unique. It can't be a super saloon, it can't be you know, from one manufacturer.
It will be more on the lines of a prototype, you know, which is appealing to the drivers, to the crowds, to the public, to sponsors, to everyone, and which just looks exciting, and it is exciting.
It looks spacey.
Yeah.
Right. So talk about drivers. Talk about people you already have on. I'm not going to ask who you have on board. Maybe that's not something you can share. But talk about the format of what sort of drivers you'll have. I'm guessing there will be teams, 7, 8 teams, right? 8 cities. So 8 teams. So how many people per team? How many cars per team?
Well, we've got 2 cars per team, and obviously that means 16 cars on the grid, and each team will have 4 drivers, and out of the 4 drivers we've categorized them into 4 categories. International drivers who are guys who have probably raced Formula 1, probably on the way to Formula 1, and basically well known to people in and around the country. Then we've got the international female drivers, again very well known around the world. They've raced at a very high level. Then we've got the Indian internationals, again known to most people in India and around the world as well, guys who are racing Formula 2, Formula 3, been there as well. And then we've got the Indian rookies and the domestic driver lineup. So these are guys who have never raced internationally. They've done very well for themselves in the country.
They've won national championships here, and they've been amongst the top 3 of the national championships. So they are well-to-do racing drivers in India. So
So put them all together on one grid, mix and match, especially the women against men, which is something that people are really excited to see, because no other sport really has women head-to-head against men. You've got mixed doubles in table tennis and tennis, but it's mixed again. But here they're fighting head-to-head. It's
in motorsport, you find 1 or 2 here and there in various series and things like that. But here, on an equal platform, no different teams as such, because we're running it, we're centralizing the whole running of the cars. So it would basically take out all the excuses. It's just driver versus driver, and here we make it mandatory that every team has a woman as well, so it's not just 1 or 2. So that's what's going to make things really exciting, by us mixing the whole lot up and see what happens.
And the helmet goes on, it's all equal.
Yeah.
It's very interesting you say every team has to have a woman. Are you looking at full women teams?
It is an option.
Is it a possibility?
In the future it would be a possibility for sure, because we'd love to have more Indian girls get involved in the sport. Right now we have a very, very small number, but obviously that will increase over the years, and then you can see full women teams for sure.
Talk to me about a little more. I'm just a little more interested in the cars, because well, that's of course at the end of the day what people come to see. I'm guessing you are not going electric, because there is this whole aura about cars, racing cars making a whole bunch of noise, and especially in a street where you have 16 cars running together, or a whole bunch of cars, loud cars running together. That's the whole draw of the sport, isn't it?
We let you in on a little secret. We are going there in the future, but obviously we don't start. Get this on the road, get started off. We start off naturally as per get everything going, but our plan is already set in stone that in the future we are moving electric. We might showcase it as well, so during the first couple of seasons, and show you our plans. But yeah, that is part of our plan to go electric, especially like you said in the streets when we're racing on the streets, because again that is the way the world is moving.
Right. Yeah, and you can't defeat that, you can't beat it. But we're going to have noise for a few years. We can guarantee you that.
Okay, what about see, there are a lot of championships that are already running in the country today, right? They've been running for years. Some do get a lot of viewership, some don't. Is this going to run in parallel to any other championship, or is it going to be completely separate? Are you going to be a part of a racing weekend, for example, with a whole bunch of other races happening, and there's also this happening on the track together?
We're an individual identity.
Well, our idea is obviously to have support races. It's not just going to be us, and if it's not too many in the beginning, we increase over the years, and if we do tie up with these existing racing championships, then it could be a possibility, so we're not ruling that out. But yeah, they have obviously the championships that exist, we've come through them, but they are they've got their own marketing agenda, which is a bit different when you're running a racing series as a third party. We're not a manufacturer, we're not a big corporate, etc. We're just starting a series, so we will have title sponsors, but it won't be a pure marketing driven agenda for one person. So that's why I think it will differentiate what we've got existing in the country and the Extreme One Racing League.
We're more of our own event as such,
Now you spoke about cities having different teams. So say Mumbai, we're in Bombay today. Mumbai, before I get pulled up on that. So you're going to have, just like the IPL, you're going to have a team owner and then team drivers. How are the drivers selected? Or have you been approached by people who are interested in owning the Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, etc. team?
We are in discussions with team owners, obviously, and we have got some positive feedback, and hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll slowly be able to announce, who's on board with which franchise. The way the drivers are being selected, basically, it's not on the IPL format where we auction them. For the first time, we're going to do a draft format if you know how the NBA or the NFL works. So that way, each team owner gets an equal opportunity to strategize and pick their lot of drivers, and it makes it exciting, you know, when they have to pick the draft out for all the 4 categories.
Right. So when do we see the first real race run in India?
Early next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully towards the end of Jan, first quarter sometime. That's our plan. We haven't yet set the calendar, but first quarter of next year.
So 2019 season.
Yes.
Any space for slightly large automotive journalists there?
Yeah, you got a big car, I believe.
Yeah.
You just have to take the seat out and you'll fit in it.
Okay, on that note, we're at a racetrack. It's not a coincidence that we're at a racetrack. I wouldn't have dragged you out of your hotel rooms early in the morning if you weren't here for a purpose. We've got 3 carts lined up, 2 for you guys, 1 for me. We're going to run a quick race to see who's the fastest, and of course I'm going to get a head start because
have you tried fitting in the seat yet?
Aditya has customers for you. It's not like you're adjusting it.
I might sort of squeeze in. I've always managed to squeeze in. So let's run a couple of laps and let's have some fun, because now the work's done. I think we need to do some racing.
We'll show you how it's done.
Let's go.
Like a soldier, better on the shoulder. Keep rats, take breaks, no pipes on.
Aditya and Armann certainly seem to have their 2 bits of fun with me on that racetrack, and that just shows how much faster professional racing drivers are as compared to us mere mortals. That's all we have time for this week on the show. Remember to catch us next week, and always remember to wear your seatbelts if you're in a car and wear your helmets if you're on a 2-wheeler. Bye-bye for now.